Live. We're about to go live here in a moment. All right, and we should be live for the Steelers Depot Q&A session here on Monday, October 12th. Let me go ahead and pull up the live stream on my end and mute my own live stream once I can figure out how to do that. All right, a lot of people are here already. So again, we are here, Dave and I, for an hour, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. Dave Bryan, how you doing?
Doing good, doing good. Happy Monday, everybody.
Happy Monday. Make sure I'm not hearing myself on the stream end, which is a good thing, I guess. There we go. Okay. I need to get two screens, and then we should be good. Anyway, we are here. So again, answering your questions. Thank you for everybody who's already asked a question so far, been part of the chat. So let's just jump right into it. Since the Steelers were back in action, have a lot more to talk about this week than last week. Our first question comes from Mike Adesso, who got this in 40 minutes before the stream started. Appreciate that, Mike. He has a joke about Claypool being inducted into Canton, but his actual question is: did he play any less special team snaps when Deontay Johnson went out? And I'll have to go back and check that, Mike. I know he was on the Pat McAfee show today talking about Claypool saying that Danny Smith will pull him out after a long drive. So I don't think it's as much about Deontay Johnson's health, or it's just really more of a snap count and what happened on that particular drive that may determine if Claypool's the gunner or if they pull him for, say, James Pierre.
I didn't look at that yet on the all 22. He played 9 special team snaps. How many times did they didn't? They didn't punt too many times in the
Mm,
game.
no, not many. But he
You
was
know,
also on the kick
so
coverage team too.
yeah, so that looks about right. Obviously, look, if he keeps playing like that, his days on special teams are probably going to be numbered. But he's a big kid. He's a healthy kid right now. And once again, it's not like he's a core special teams player. So we'll see. I mean, we could get to a point later on in the season, maybe, but he's so damn good at it.
Right.
Uh,
That's hard to take him
uh,
off.
yeah, so it's hard to take them off right now. So we'll see, but it shows nine special team snaps, and I haven't even got to the special teams portion of the all 22 yet.
Mutated Genome, a rusty Big Ben, has 10 touchdowns, only one interception for the season. Other than his deep ball, which has not been on point longer than just this season, do you see any weaknesses to his game so far? Not really, Mutated Genome. I think it really comes down just to deep ball. Dave and I talked about that on today's podcast. Still looking for that to get better. Ben's expressed that same sentiment. Still trying to, I guess, feel where exactly his arm is at in terms of arm strength. But other than that, I think Ben's been really good. He's taken much better care of the football, especially the last 2 weeks against the Texans and the Eagles. No interceptions. He's been playing really well overall.
You know what? Used to get on Ben a little bit at times about wondering if he put in the proper work at times. Tape study and all like that over the years. He showed on that play on that touchdown pass to Claypool. But that one play and him changing that up and changing running a double smash divide concept in that against that. It took all he could do to contain himself when he got that coverage look that he did. That one play, uh, along with the throw and other throws he made in that game. Now, obviously, yeah, we'd like to see the deep ball get better, and hopefully, as we progress through this thing, it will. He looks fine, man. I mean, making a lot better decisions with the ball. He's not having a lot of interceptable passes either.
hmm
It's one thing because sometimes obviously players will drop. The opposing team will drop some, and you get off the hook that way or whatnot. Now, other than having some early batted down balls in like what those first game or two that he had, and then obviously the bad decision on the lone interception that he had against who was at Denver. Um,
Yep.
really he's made some good decisions with the ball. 13 for 13 on third downs against the Eagles for 150 something yards and 2 touchdowns there. So far so good, as they say.
Yeah, arm looks healthy. He's healthy. Mobility obviously isn't great, but it's still enough. His pocket presence improved after I thought a tough start in terms of just feeling the pocket very early in the year, especially week one against the Giants. But other than the deep ball mutated genome, not a whole lot to dislike. Steeler
Real,
fan like.
real, real, real
Mhm.
quick on that on some of these advanced metrics with him that you worry about. Now he is getting the ball out quicker, obviously 2.37 seconds from snap to throw time, which is about you go back to 2018, that's probably very similar to that number there. 4.7 yards past the line of scrimmage is his completed air yards distance. That's low. His intended air yard distance average is 7 yards down the field. He's got a differential in the negative of 2.4. You don't want that differential to be that huge. You'd like to see it obviously a lot smaller than that, and you would obviously like to see the completed air yards distance up around 5.8, 6.2 around in there.
Yeah, yeah. So things to work on for sure in that respect. But overall, very happy with Ben. He's been healthy. He's been available and has not missed a snap, which is the ultimate thing you were looking for this season. Steeler fan 1933 says, "Hello, Alex, Dave, and Steelers Nation." Hello, Steeler fan. ODG Dorkman says, "Do you think it'd be possible at some point to ask Dr. Mel about Dak's injury? It looked really bad. Prayers, yeah, prayers up to Dak. That's obviously a season-ending injury he suffered. I don't know if Dr. Mel had tweeted about it. I imagine she did, but next time she's on the podcast, which hopefully won't be for a while, means the team stay healthy. But next time she's on, maybe we'll ask her about it."
Yeah, you can tweet her too at Girl Surgeon. She's real good at getting
Hmm.
back to people that way as well too. She's on and off throughout the day, so she'd probably answer a question on Twitter for you too if you reach out to her.
Mark Leslie, hey guys, happy Victory Monday. Happy Victory Monday to you as well, Mark. Slumpy Boy says, "What happened to Deontay? I didn't see him at all in the second half." You are correct, you did not. He suffered a back injury on his second punt return and tried to come back in the game, but I don't think he ever got official clearance. I imagine he'll be available against the Browns, but yeah, he missed that game missed the rest of this game with a back injury. Mike Adesso, guys, Pouncey has been playing how many seasons now? Yet he consistently has a couple high snaps a game. How is this even possible still? I'm not as worried about it as I was last year, Dave. I don't know about you. I mean, there's been a couple that were a little high. I mean, that is natural when you snap the ball as much as he has, but compared to last year where it was over their heads or incredibly high to the point where it would dramatically and drastically impact the play, I don't think it's to that level. So I'm not super worried about it.
Yeah, until we have until we have something happen. But it is frustrating at times. But sometimes I'm sure he gets caught up in maybe what is blocking inside. Snap. Wanting to get rid of it so he can get
Hmm.
into attack mode. I would assume has a lot to do with that. But that's been kind of the mo on him for a little bit.
Right. Mutated genome. After what we have seen from Claypool so far, should he ever come off the field? Also, short of any injuries, have we finally seen the last of Jalen Samuels? So I'd answer the latter question. I'll let you take the former question, Dave. With Samuels, yeah, he's really only going to be used in some sort of 2 minute hurry up situation where Connor needs a rest for whatever reason that may be. So, other than that, Samuels is not going to have any sort of significant and impactful role in the offense. And Dave, how would you juggle the depth they have at receiver with obviously Claypool's production?
Look, I think you just keep doing what you're doing right now. You can work. I mean, they're using enough 11 personnel where you can rotate some of these guys in certain situations, and and that includes McLeod too. There's going to be a situation where you want to get McLeod on the field, and we saw them go empty. What? How many times in the game with four different wide receivers I think on the field at the time as well too.
Hmm.
So does he need look? Here's the thing, and I thought they brought this up good on the Pat McAfee show as well too today. Kind of talking to him, this kid's going to hit the rookie wall at some point. It's going to happen. You would think it's going to happen. I wouldn't get too caught up in worrying about trying to play him every snap right now. James Washington has done some good things for you so far in certain situations here. There's no sense to play him 100% of the time. I think you can get to a situation though comfortably where you're playing him 20 to 30 snaps a game, and obviously if injuries happen and someone like Deontay has to miss time, he'll obviously get some more. But if you're running some two wide receiver sets here, and you have Deontay and Juju, obviously because of the experience both those guys have, and specifically Juju, going to be on the field there. So I wouldn't get caught up in counting snaps just yet.
Yeah, I'm with you. ODG Dorkman, do the stars and the Steelers emblem stand for anything or represent anything? I think it's double HH says before. The cycloids of the Steelers come from the elements that comprise steel. I always forget what those elements are. It's iron ore, water, I think, and something else, maybe not water. I forget, but they do represent as double HH says. And Dave, if you know, feel free to jump in.
I always have to research the correct, obviously, story behind that when we get to it. I remember growing up as a kid when you would see stuff too, steel products, and you'd see the steel logo on you. You would always associate that. But oh, um,
Out of
yeah,
here.
yeah, they
Well,
represent the three materials used to produce steel: yellow for coal, orange for iron, and blue for steel scrap.
okay, there you go. So there's a story behind that. Let's see. Mike Adesso, Dave and Alex, you guys didn't really discuss Ebron on the podcast today. How would you rate his game? A few mental and physical errors, but he's a weapon. How would you describe Ebron through the first month as a Steeler?
Uh, some of those hand issues we saw throughout his career. Obviously, we saw a couple of those yesterday, right?
Hmm.
Had I think at least one drop, and then obviously had the ball ripped out of him, which I kind of question whether or not he had full possession of that. I tell you though, I know he doesn't like to block, but you're seeing some effort there, all right?
Hmm.
And you're seeing a couple good plays where it's some good effort in there, and he's getting the job done on a few of these things. So I think you go back specifically to the red zone touchdown that he had against Houston. That's the kind of stuff that you got him for. A couple of the quick hitters there. That's the kind of stuff that you got him for. In fact, one of those plays I think it was a third down earlier in the game. They ran the same concept with him with a reversal, that they did on the Chase Claypool touchdown. On the other side with Claypool, I mean with Ebron running that route that Claypool ran against Nathan Gary, and it looked like he had got on top of them if Ben had wanted to take that shot. I think it was a little bit different coverage maybe on that. I don't know. I think maybe it was cover six on that. I had to go back and look at it, but. How would I rate him on a grade scale so far? I don't know, B minus, C plus.
Yeah, I think about as advertised. And again, I mean, the understanding for all these guys, I was asked today about Juju and where his production's at. I think it's going to be just such an ebb and flow to this offense because there are so many weapons. This offense doesn't run through one particular person. It could be Juju as it was week one, Ebron as it was week three, Claypool as it was yesterday. And so consistency in terms of having high volume week after week is probably not going to be attainable for any of these guys. Maybe Deontay a little bit whenever he's healthy, because the target share is bigger for him, it seems, than the other guys. I said X receiver who gets ISO and solo matchups more than anybody else. But you're just gonna have an ebb and flow. But yeah, Ebron's made some plays as a blocker. There's a willingness when they're smart with leverage and angles. He's done a good enough job. And yeah, I think it's just been as advertised. What you thought you were going to get with Eric Ebron, you're getting from him, and I'll take it. Play Dead 0112. Hey, Dave and Alex. I just wanted to say the refs were horrible. They allowed some of those drives to continue. I thought they were bad. And I don't usually complain about refs too much and put them in my losers list because that just seems so crying over spilled milk. But they were bad for both sides. For the Eagles fans and Steelers fans, I think both have rightful gripes with the way the refs called that game. But Steelers win.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
move on.
There were bad calls on both sides.
Samantha Ecorn. Hey, everybody. Victory Monday. Hello, Samantha. Glad you could be here with us again. Morgan Hadley says Ben changing the play with Ray and Claypool was great. Papa Vino says, "You think the Browns could get us? The Steelers have a tendency to lose to teams they shouldn't lose to. Listen, the Browns are playing really well. They're a 4-1 team. I don't want to pretend this isn't, like past years where the Browns are 2-11 or whatever 1-5, and it just should be like an easy game for Pittsburgh that they still managed to keep it pretty close. Like the Browns are a good team, and the Steelers definitely are going to have their hands full Sunday,
And Baker's not playing his best football either.
right? And they're still winning. Yeah, their run game's been
Yep.
unbelievable. Although we'll have to see about some of their injuries. Why Teller, their guard, he's week to week. I don't know if he's going to play Sunday or not. But if he doesn't go, I think they're going to have Chris Hubbard come and make the start. So former Steeler, circling back to an AFC North Steelers Browns matchup. Double HH says, "Thank you, Steelers Depot, for the additional content and forums. You're very welcome. Glad you're here with us." Joe, I'm not going to be able to pronounce that last name. Joe M. When was the last time the Steelers went 5-0? Well, the last time they went 4-0 was 78 and 79. I don't know if they won their next game either of those years, but they've only been 4-0, 73, 78, and 79. So one of those 3 years maybe, but I'd have to check, Joe. I don't know for sure. Christopher R. Did you know the and this is two people actually saying the same comment, so this is from Christopher and I Am Legend. Did you know the Steelers opponents have only been called for one holding call this season? The league average is four. Do you think the refs are calling holding enough? Again, I don't pay a lot of attention to refs and how much they aren't or are calling holding, but certainly you think the Steelers might be due at some point.
You just think just as one of those law of averages type
Mm-hmm.
things, huh?
It all comes out in the wash.
Yeah.
Jason Tatum, I believe I seen a go route for Ray Ray. Wonder if they see a lot more in him. Dave, Ray, you've been on that Ray train for a while now, and he's playing well.
And I didn't like the signing when it happened. I wasn't high on his signing when it happened.
And that was over ball security issues, right?
Yeah, it was over ball security issues mostly. And look, I mean, there wasn't a lot of. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of tape. Period at the pro level.
Hmm.
Obviously, you had to watch a lot of his Clemson tape to see. I mean, it wasn't huge. I like the way they're using him though, and as the question, as they just said, he had at least a go route in there. I'd like to see more of that. I tell you, one little write this one down as well too. I think you could do a little something with a couple of guys, a couple of him and McFarland in the backfield, and run one of them on the wheel.
Hmm.
I've been calling for that for a little while. I think you could see a little razzle dazzle with that. Now, Tyreek Hill, he's not. Okay, so I mean he's got some limitations there, but yeah, I think you can get him on the field for what 10 snaps and uh, maybe get a couple of touches in them. Perfect. Look, I all but called what happened yesterday on that end around there. A little bit different play design than what I thought they would use there, but with him and McFarland, you've got to get that speed on the field. You got to get both those guys 2, 3 touches a game, and kind of set that stuff up for maybe an explosive play or two.
Yeah, with the way they're finally utilizing motion, not only just using it, but using it effectively, you got to be able to incorporate those guys. And I think those are the skill sets and the players to do it. Chester Pinkney answered the question. Steelers went 7-0 in 78 before losing at home to the Oilers on Monday night. So there's the answer. Thank you very much, Chester, for that information.
Here's another thing about getting those guys on the field, and we already talked about ahead of this about McFarland. When you get him on the field the first time, which they did against the Texans, you got to get the ball in his hands. Well, when you get the ball in those players' hands, well, now you have the task of getting them on the field and not putting the ball in their hands because you don't want them to come on the field and every time they come on the field they get the ball.
Hmm.
So you gotta mix it up enough with them on the field of getting the ball and not get the ball. So you don't have tendencies out there on top of it. So that's why both of those guys, if you're going to use them, probably need to play at least I don't know 10 snaps, 7 to 10 snaps apiece.
Yeah, self scouting is so important with those kind of things, especially when you're adding something new to your offense where you're just trying to get your basics down and find the stuff that works for you. But you got to be able to know that other teams are now squarely looking at this and seeing your own tendencies and are adjusting to it. So you got to have a really critical eye yourself now going forward. AJC, hey, Alex and Dave, thank you for answering our question. You guys are great. Thank you very much. If Wisniewski comes out of IR this week, who would they cut to make room for him? Whenever Wisniewski comes off IR and is ready to rejoin the team officially, I mean, Duran Gray could go back to the practice squad. That's probably an easy name to go to right now. Although with the offensive line injuries currently with the Castro and Pouncey, they may wait on that. So I'm in that cross that bridge when we come to it kind of camp right now.
Yeah, we don't know. I know there's some rumblings right now, but we just don't have anything concrete on Wisniewski. We just know that he had to miss this was the third game, right?
Right, because it was games,
Right.
not weeks, and that kind of screwed the Steelers with the whole bye situation.
Right. So now we'll sit and wait. Hopefully somebody will ask the question. Not that we'll get an honest answer out of Mike Tomlin on Tuesday, but you're not going to get you're not if you don't ask it, you're not going to get it. You run a chance of not getting answered at all.
Mhm.
Not like he's going to volunteer the information. So we'll see what Tomlin has to say if somebody asks him about Wisniewski on Tuesday. But yeah, if he comes back, you would think it would be a tit for tat when it comes to an offensive lineman there.
And just to clarify the point, he can still be activated from IR in the sense of he can practice and that window opens up too, correct? It's not an immediate promotion to the roster, correct?
Right, they have a 21-day window, I think, that opens for those guys, and then within, in other words, they can resume practicing. They don't have to be on the active roster at that time. But once you start that clock, then
Hmm.
you have the 21 days to act. They either have to be activated, released, or left on IR for the rest of the year.
Right. So we really should know when that move is coming because he'll be activated to practice and then officially get put later that week. I would assume maybe the next week once he's healthy and ready to go. So we'll have some advance notice. It's not going to be like Wisniewski's all of a sudden on the roster. Here's the roster move corresponding. So just a heads up there. All right, next question. Eric Schaefer, what's up? People calling Juju a bust because he's not a monster like AB. I don't know who's calling Juju a bust, but I imagine somebody is. Juju is great, I think. Being a team player, was Hines Ward ever a dominant number one receiver like AB or Juice Hopkins? Yeah, fair point, Eric. As I said earlier with Eric Ebron, because the distribution is going to go through so many guys. There are going to be weeks where it's Juju's week, where it's Claypool's week, where it's Ebron's week, where it's Deontay Johnson, James Washington. You get the point. So I'm not as worried about the numbers. I think that'll all kind of even out as the season goes along, and I think Juju's a good player and will help his team in a really meaningful way the rest of the season.
Look, you're setting up a nice situation right now where defense is going to have to start picking their poison pretty soon. If you can get Deontay Johnson back on the field and healthy and keep him out there, you got a nice little group of wide receivers right now where you don't need a quote unquote number one. Look, say what you will about Juju, but and Alex and I talked, I think, this morning about that aggressive back shoulder throw yesterday.
Hmm.
That was a tough catch, and yeah, it didn't count the penalty, yada yada. But I thought Juju played fine yesterday.
Yeah, I was happy with it. I've been happy with his performance overall. Again, he's healthy, team player mentality for sure, and he's just working well in the offense.
Chase Claypool's not going to have 4 touchdowns and 100 and whatever 130 or 13 whatever yards it was every game. Now
Hmm.
there's going to be Juju's going to have a 2 or 3 touchdown game. Too. Look, I mean, who was leading the team in touchdowns prior to this week?
Yeah, Juju had a 2 touchdown game in the opener,
Right,
so he's
right.
capable of it, obviously.
How soon they forget, right?
Exactly. Vic Miles, what's going on with Minka and Bush? No splash plays to date. Are they being schemed or just not playing well? I don't think either guys are playing. Either guy is playing poorly. They could certainly play better. The lack of splash has been there. Neither guy's really created a turnover since mid-year last season, which is a concern for guys that are first-round picks and athletes and the talent that they are. I wish I had a great answer for you, Dave, or for you, Vic, and Dave. I'll throw the question to you about your thoughts on Minka and Bush, but you do want to see splash. I mean, there's no arguing that.
Right. You want to see some splash, but I'm not getting worked up over this just yet. You know,
At what point
uh,
would you potentially feel like, okay, we're at a heightened concern level?
about 3 or 4 more games. Within the next 3 games, you would like to start seeing some play. Passes, defense, forced fumble. Something.
Hmm.
Along those lines. I'm not worried yet.
Yeah, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, I know it's super arbitrary, but how would you rank how well Minka and Bush has played, or who do you think's played better, Minka or Devin Bush?
I think they're both probably about sixes.
Hmm.
6, 7, right around in there.
I think I'd be about the same. Yeah, so I'm not trying to panic, yeah, you do want to see more splash from those guys for sure. And they're moving Minka around. I don't want to use the crutch too much of he's in center field because he hasn't been. They have tried to get different ways for him to roll down and rob crossing routes, but just hasn't happened yet. And sometimes it's just the way that the ball goes. Rob Coe, think we should do what the Dolphins did, start Minka at cornerback against other team number one in okay matchups. I'm not sure what Miami did exactly, what that is in reference to, Rob, but I'm happy with Minka at free safety. If for nothing else, there's really no other option at free safety. K Jackson, Pittsburgh, hey guys, were you concerned that we could not cover Travis Fulgham after he consistently burned our secondary? Yeah, he was the one guy that was carving up this team. It wasn't Zach Ertz. It wasn't the return of a healthy receiver or Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey type. It was Travis Fulgham. And he was just making routine play after routine play, making it look easy, winning on third down. And that was absolutely a concern. Half of Carson Wentz's 20 completions went to Travis Fulgham, and that's just not acceptable. Let's see. Yin's Nation Sport. You think the Steelers going to re-sign Juju? I think we get this question once or twice a live stream, Dave. I am still more optimistic than you, but I'm just going to let the season play out, see how it goes, and kind of just look at that when I can look at that after the regular season ends.
It's going to be tough. We talked about this on the podcast. Make sure you tune in into the podcast because we talk about that every couple of weeks there. And we just had a long discussion again about the things that would probably have to happen immediately after the season ends in order for him to return. As Alex said, he's a lot more optimistic than I am. This team's going to have cap issues right out of the chute starting in February and March just to get cap compliant there. So I don't like the odds of it. It's not impossible, but if they did, you would think that a deal would have to be reached before the franchise tag deadline because accommodating the franchise tag deadline on him will be incredibly tough. So not impossible, but they are going to have a lot of work to do right after the season ends because this team, depending on what the cap number comes in at. So that's another thing. It makes it even harder to project this year. What are we going to look at a cap? Is it going to be 175 million floor? Is it going to be flat 198.2, or by some miracle are we going to get to a point where maybe it's, I don't know, 205 or 210 or something along those lines? We don't know. Obviously, the lower that number is, makes it the more unlikely that Juju will be back.
Yeah, going to be definitely a busy time after this season ends. CJ Sachs, how worried should we be about our secondary? Certainly some level of concern. The biggest concern for me is just, you want to see these guys make plays on the football. It doesn't always have to be a turnover, but just breakups, competing at the catch point, not allowing such easy completions the way they have recently, and just simply tackling the catch is not always good enough. And so hopefully it'll come. I'm not sure exactly how to explain it other than just natural regression, and we were a bit spoiled by things last year, how well they were playing in that regard. But you do want to see improvement there. There's no doubt, CJ. Samantha Equine, if a team that hasn't had positive COVID tests but has been affected schedule wise already, what happens if they do in the future? Let me read that
Oh
question again.
Lord.
Yeah, in terms of this stuff, I think the NFL is just flying by the seat of its pants and just trying to make this thing work without having to go to an 18-game schedule. So, if a team that hasn't had positive COVID test but has had an affected schedule, i.e., bye week changes, wise, already what happens if they do in the future? So, saying like if they've already had stuff moved around, can they have stuff moved around again? I'm sure it's all on the table, Samantha. That's just the messiness of the situation that we live in right now, and the NFL is just going to try to figure this out within the confines of a 17-week season. Failing that, they'll probably go with an 18-week season.
That question is way above my pay grade.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just sit back and watch that end of it there. I don't have a clue what rhyme or reason they're going about this. But as Alex and I talked recently on another podcast as well too, the fact that you would think there's some plan in case they need to add some weeks to this thing. I think they want to use that as a last case scenario, but I mean, here we are, week 5 already, and we've got the juggling that we have. I would think the odds are pretty good that there might have to be some more of it.
Probably. Russ Obenstein says, almost missed the show. What's up, Alex, Dave, and chat room? Thanks for being here, Russ. Mark Leslie, biggest positives and negatives of our season so far. I was actually asked this on an interview earlier today. I'd say the biggest positive are some of these young linemen that are stepping up and playing well. Kevin Dotson for David DeCastro, Chuck Will McCord for coming in for Zach Banner after losing that battle late in the summer. So the linemen stepping up is definitely impressive. Kudos to them. And then the secondary, like I just mentioned, not making some of those plays on the football we were so accustomed to them making last year is a cause for concern. Dave, what do you think? I mean, biggest positive, biggest negative of this team?
I think biggest positive, you get contributions, a lot, contributions out of your young guys and Claypool and Highsmith playing some snaps. And you don't like the reason why Dotson's having to play, but
Hmm.
he's playing and he's contributing. He's playing well, I think overall. And the biggest negative, yeah, I mean, look, you'd like to see more splash on the back end. I mean, you'd like you don't like to see these third and forevers being converted, and you don't like to see the team giving up more than 17 points a week, and especially not over 20 points a week or 22 points a week. So little things like that. Now, they say stats can lie sometimes. The defensive adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat for the defense right now is, I think, 5.2. That's the third best in the NFL. All right. So yeah, is it smoke and mirrors with a couple of these, couple of these interceptions that they got against the Eagles, which both of them are kind of gifts there? Sure, but they all count.
Mhm.
there. But yeah, I think the negatives would be uh, third down defense and explosive plays on defense so far.
And while I think it was better yesterday, punting has been an issue as well. The net punting numbers have not been where they need to be. Greg Smith, is it fair to say the probability of re-signing Juju is partly predicated on how consistent Claypool and Deontay can be this year? To an extent, I understand your point because there is depth. They have a lot of these young receivers on rookie contracts, but I think ultimately it does just come down to partially Juju's own production and just the money situation, what he's going to want, as Dave mentioned, where the salary cap is at. So I think it's really more of a financial question. They, of course, would love to be able to bring back Juju if possible. And, Deontay's not a slot receiver. Claypool can play in the slot, but he's not really a traditional slot receiver either. Granted, neither is Juju, but it's more of a financial question to solve than it is necessarily a talent around you standpoint. In my
Right.
opinion, anyway.
Right, and both those other two guys are on rookie deals, Claypool and Johnson, obviously, and Juju. It's not that they look. You look at each individual player and their worth versus their value and all like that, and then you make your decisions off of totality of the cap and all like that. So no, they're not looking at it and say, well, if Juju or if Deontay doesn't have a good season, and look, I mean, they obviously would like like to have Juju back if all possible.
Hmm.
They're not going to run him off, but the finances might say that you just can't get a deal done with him. Once again, I think his market value, even right now, is around $16 million per year, new money average. Okay, that's and the franchise tag on $175 million cap is like a little shy of 16 million. So that's the number that you kind of dealing with unless he just falls off the cliff the rest of the season. And obviously, if he falls off the cliff the rest of the season, are you going to want to re-sign him anyway? That would make two kind of seasons in a row for him. Even though last year was 2019 was injury related there, so it all comes down to money and cap space,
Yep. Show
and
me.
and they don't have a lot, they don't have a huge history of paying top of the market, to wide receivers on the first on the first redo. Now, obviously, AB, his deal wasn't top of the market when they re-signed him coming off his rookie contract, and they had him over the barrel anyway because back then the restricted free agency, what the Steelers would sign the rookies to rookie contracts for 3 years, so they had him over the barrel of sorts when it came to restricted free agency. That's obviously not the case in the CBA nowadays where you can do that. So once again, it's going to be tough. I'm not saying it's a slam dunk. It's not going to happen, but it's going to be tough to have Juju back after the season.
Yeah, point taken. Julian, we talked about Minka a little bit earlier in the live stream, so you can either circle back or go to the archive of the live stream when it comes out to hear our thoughts on Minka. K. Jackson talked about holding as well. I would just say, yeah, you could argue there was holding on that Miles Sanders run. Edmonds probably held, but if Minka makes that, or if Mike Hilton makes that tackle, if Bud Dupree is able to recognize the draw on the stunt he was running and someone gets Sanders on the ground, then it's a moot point about holding downfield by receivers. So that's kind of where I put my focus at on that play. Jonathan Mason, Bob Labriola said on Steelers Live today that he thinks it won't be long before Claypool is the number one receiver. Is that recency bias or realistic? Maybe half and half. Again, I don't get too caught up about number one and number two and all that kind of stuff. As I said earlier, I think that everyone in this offense is going to be able to eat. They're going to have big weeks. They're going to have quieter weeks, just depending on how defenses play them. Certainly, defenses are going to pay more attention to Claypool now, and maybe life gets a little bit harder for him going forward, how he adjusts to that, how that may open up somebody else. So I think there's a lot of weapons on this team, and that's kind of all I care about. What's that?
I mean, I don't want to take anything away. I mean, he's obviously a fantastic game. I think he's doing some incredible things so far. But I mean, he's got 13 catches so far. Okay, so let's let this develop a little bit more. I think he's on obviously on pace. Look, he's on pace to have a rookie receiving yardage record, break the one that Juju just set a couple years ago, and obviously 4 receiving touchdowns through 4 games. That's 16 for the season. Do you think he's going to hit 16 for the season? Probably not.
Probably not.
Can he hit 1,000 yards receiving? Odds will probably tell you that it's against him doing so, but it's not impossible, especially if Deontay Johnson continues to miss time here. We don't. What's the rush to put a number on these guys?
Mhm.
on a rookie like this. As Alex and I did, if you're just joining us, Alex and I talked to what's the rush? Get him out there to 20 to something snaps, 30 something snaps a game. That's not an issue here. There, the whole make him the number one. Look, he's not Antonio Brown yet, right?
Sure. Yeah. Obviously, I mean the talent is immense and the ceiling is super high. We've already gotten a feel for that. But I'm just gonna look at Claypool to build off what he's doing right now. Continue to show that consistency, as you mentioned. Deal with the rookie wall later in the season, and I just recognize there's a lot of talent, a lot of weapons on this team, and there are going to be weeks where Claypool has monster games like he did yesterday. There are going to be weeks where he's a lot quieter, and that's just going to be based off of game situation, game flow, how defenses are playing you, and just whatever happens on any given Sunday.
Right. I mean, look. I mean, there's going to be the 3 for 50 games. Okay.
Hmm.
And then probably going to be an occasional 6 for 120. Okay. If he can get loose over the top right now, I don't. There shouldn't be any rush to label him number one. Whatever. Just let him develop and keep feeding them into the offense and building off, as Alex said, more and more off what his positives are.
Devin Snowden with a related question. With our group of wide receivers and the emergence of Chase Claypool, does that make our receiving group unguardable because you can't double anybody? Certainly helps to have more weapons. It's hard to take away one guy. If you want to take away one guy, it's going to open up, Juju or Deontay or Washington or Ebron. You go down the list of names. So I think having that balance of weapons is an obvious benefit to your offense.
And look, I think you saw a little bit of that yesterday with how they tried to defend things. Man up. You run the risk of manning up against these guys, and if Johnson's in there alone with Ebron, that's tough. Any defensive personnel grouping going to be tough to defend it. And then definitely when you get into a situation, if you're going to play a zone, any type of zone defense or a cover two or a cover six, like we saw the Eagles do, you're going to run into a world of trouble there. And Ben can make it even better if he starts hitting on some of these deep passes. You want to talk about loosening up the defense? You hit on a couple of those, you really loosen things up.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that. Eric McDay is asking about the secondary, a worry there. What do you think about subbing in other cornerbacks in a rotation, Dave? What do you think about subbing in more rotation a corner?
I don't think about it.
What about Sutton increasing his playing time in some form or fashion, I guess, over Hilton? Is that an option?
I mean, you're gonna play Hill. I mean, you're gonna play Sutton and Dime the way you're playing them now. I wouldn't do a thing as far as rotation goes. No.
Yeah, I'm basically with you. I know Hilton's getting some looks at safety, at least he did against the Eagles. Could Sutton be in that camp too? Probably not, but yeah, it just sucks because Sutton is a really good player, and he has been limited by just how much dime there is in that particular game. But yeah, I really can't see a whole lot happening with the rotation at cornerback right now. ODG Dorkman, do you think Tomlin talked about the strength of the pack? Is the pack setting the players up for next season when we do not have the same dogs? It's a little bit of both. It's a mentality now. It's a mentality that Tomlin's always carried. Next man up mentality is something he's always talked about. So I don't think it's specific to next year. I think he's so focused on this season because that's the task at hand. But it's a message that I'm sure can and will apply to next season. Mike Adesso, thoughts on UG3? I seem to remember seeing him flash around on a few kickoff returns. Haven't gotten a chance to watch him closely yet, aside from an couple early plays in that game, but just happy he was able to get a hat. First time he was active for a game in basically a year because he missed the last half of last season. So just happy he was back in a helmet and back in a stadium.
Yeah, I haven't looked at his special team. I remember seeing one live, seeing him run down on. Did he have a assisted tackle yesterday?
I think he did. I think he showed up on the stat sheet somewhere, but I don't
Yeah,
don't remember when.
I think he had an
Uh,
assisted special teams tackle yesterday.
Travis
I'll
Herco,
I'll, I'll look.
Okay, Travis Herco. Good evening, gentlemen. Hey, Travis. JK says, "Do we take the Saquon approach where we run commit a lot, or should we be more neutral because of Landry and Odell?" I don't know if it's necessarily to the degree of the Saquon approach because the Browns have better receiver talent than what the Giants had to offer and a better quarterback. But yeah, this team's mentality is to always stop the run. The Browns are running the football effectively even without Nick Chubb. They're still a threat. So you got to take care of that Browns run game first because that's how they build off all their run action and bootlegs and things like that.
And keep Baker Mayfield in the pocket.
They've done a better job. I thought against the second half against Watson and against Wentz, they did do a much better job of keeping the pocket and kind of just constricting Wentz and Watson and not escaping as often. Russ Obenstein, David Alex, wouldn't you say it's easy? Why were we winning these kinds of games? Only one interception. I'm not sure what you're asking, Russ. Dave and Alex, wouldn't you say it's easy? Why we're winning these kind of games? Only one interception. Um, is that because of you're saying Ben's? I don't know what angle you're coming from there, Russ. Let me know in the comments. Dennis Sheridan, Ola, Alex, and Dave. Can Big Al beat Garrett with his helmet Sunday? And a follow up, how many times before he's penalized? Yeah, it's a storyline I haven't really heard much yet. The whole Miles Garrett rematch and revisiting against Cleveland. I'm sure that one will probably pop up later this week.
Big Al's had some, a few issues with Garrett, but not to the degree that everybody makes out. Look, Miles Garrett's one of if him and T.J. Watt right now are the premier pass rushers. With the Bosa's banged up and all like that in the NFL, right? So, uh, but let me tell you, Big Al's a seasoned guy. It's going to be a good matchup. I'm sure Miles Garrett might have a couple wins in that game. As long as Big Al wins a majority of them, everything should be fine.
Yeah, it'll be one of the matchups to watch, absolutely. And as you said, Garrett's always given Villanueva fits, but he gives a lot of left tackles fits in the NFL. That's why they paid him all that kind of money earlier this year. Nero the King, do you guys think Mapletron is playing Juju out of Pittsburgh? No, I wouldn't necessarily frame it that way. They do play different positions. I mean, again, Claypool can kind of play in the slot, but not to the degree that Juju's capable of doing it. Mark Miller says, shout out to McDonald, key blocks for Ray Ray and Claypool runs. Yeah, McDonald's really looked good as a blocker this year, just looks a lot healthier than where he was last season. Alex Flores, should we start roaring about Johnson's injuries like Connor? And by the way, great show, guys. Appreciate your hard work. Thank you, Alex. It's frustrating, Dave. I don't know how much we should worry about it necessarily because they're not the longer term injuries the way the Connor's been, but Deontay's a talented player who just has had trouble staying on the field consistently.
Yeah, it's at the frustrating level right now.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, I'm not ready to label him injury prone or whatever. However, whatever some of these labels people try to put on these guys, uh, let's just he needs to get back on the field and stay on the field for several games in a row.
Frustrating is a good word to use, and I think he will be back out there for Sunday. Keith R. Matt Canada is only scratching the surface on what he's going to design with his offense. This is a guy who put up 49 against a great Clemson defense. Yeah, Canada's influence was as evident as ever against the Eagles, and I thought they had a really good scheme. The Ray Ray long run, the Claypool touchdown, some really interesting wrinkles and evolution to this offense we have not seen in quite some time.
But let's be careful there. He's not reinventing the wheel here. He's taken some aspects that we haven't seen here in with this offense and adding them onto some staples. And then there are a few different wrinkles here and there that we're picking up and all. But you just got to keep continually building on the tape that you have out there. And it looks like they're willing to work collaboratively on that. But you know like the diamond formation over there. I mean,
Hmm.
that was nice to see. And look, you're making them kind of declare that way, and then you just play the numbers at that time, right? You count them up, and which side do you go to the ball with?
Hmm.
Because didn't on the other side, what Ebron singled up on the other side?
Yeah, Ben said he'd always thrown that in practice to Ebron solo, but they'd taken away with an overhang defender, and so he went to Claypool for the first time.
I think what people lose sight of sometimes, people think the play comes in and the play don't work and fire the offensive coordinator.
Is that not
You
how it
know,
works?
there yesterday was a good example of how so much goes into you would like to play you scheme up. You think, okay, if we you start filling out a team in the first quarter, you try to run your scripted stuff and all like that. You look at the kind of looks that they're giving you defensively. Are they playing you man? Are they playing you cover three? Are they play what are they doing? And then you start you can look at this stuff and it goes around in the same game again. You'll see the same stuff run, maybe run in the other direction out of a different personnel grouping. And just that Ben, that Ben, that last touchdown to Claypool from Ben is just a good example of how important it is to have everybody from the quarterback to the offensive coordinator to the quarterback's coach to the wide receivers, everybody on the same page, because that was a situation where they had they came out there intending to run probably a quick kind of slant, expecting to get a man coverage type situation. They didn't. Ben breaks the huddle and sees them in a quarter half situation, cover six, and then his eyes light up like a Christmas tree, and he has plenty of time to change the play. And he, wasn't a call elbow? Elbow has to be the smash call, because did he go elbow to both sides?
Is that what he's verbalized? Is that what you're saying?
I thought so. Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't
So
tell what he said.
so that had to be, because they ran mirror smashes on that, and then with the dagger down the middle,
Yeah,
and what I'm getting at is that that's just one aspect of the play. Just doesn't cut. There's so much that goes into successful running successful plays in the NFL.
exactly. It's this chess game that we only get to see bits and pieces of. Yeah, actually, I tweeted this earlier. The first play, the first pass that Ben threw, and the final pass that Ben threw was the same call initially. The first play of the game was that screen to Ray, and that was the play they were going to run on that third down touchdown to Claypool. Had they gotten the blitz look they were expecting, they didn't get it. So Ben is just then kind of working on the fly to change the play and get them in the right position to beat that split safety look, and they did. So that's just the chess game that is the NFL.
Go pull up that post I did about Ben getting a compliment from Doug Peterson there. If people if people will go to that post and then click on that video from Duffy there, it's a nice long video that shows kind of really the setup of what the Steelers had going into of the times that they kind of ran that kind of trips on one side, and the different kind of coverages they faced that kind of led to that apex moment of the touchdown to Claypool there. So you if you get a good if you get good at and have the time to sit on Game Pass like we do, you can see this stuff sickle through a game, and and you'll start learning. You say, okay, well, I thought I saw that before, but maybe out of a
Hmm.
different formation or along those lines. So, you know,
Yeah, yeah. That's just the intricacies of the NFL. It's a lot of fun to watch, and it's a lot of fun for us to get to cover for you guys. And we have over 100 people in the chat, so thank you very much. And be sure to like the video. That helps get more people to the video as well.
over 100. God bless you, people.
Hmm. Big Mama JLG says, "Quick question: What are each of your favorite positions to evaluate?" Dave, are you at the are you a tight end, pass rusher?
I'm a tight end, edge, guard, I think, guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think where my favorite is at. I don't know if I have one. I think I like pass rushers. I like edge rusher. That's kind of one of my favorite to watch. But I
I
don't know.
like old school tight. I like to evaluate the tight ends that do it all.
Hmm. Not a lot of those guys anymore.
No, not a lot of them. That's why they usually stick out to me, and I'm pretty good about calling them out there.
Dustin Stover, any update on Jerron Jones? I know he was involved in some of the off-field issues, but any chance he gets called up with O-line injuries? He's not going to get called up. I'm kind of surprised he's still on the team, to be honest. I guess they're going to let this legal process play out, but I do not see him in the mix to get a hat on Sunday.
I'm curious at it. Why? Yeah, I'm surprised he's still on the roster. That just goes to show you can't. You got to find out all the facts and all first. I would imagine they're still probably in the fact finding stage of it there. But no, he's not coming up to the roster anytime soon.
Russ, we did definitely see Canada's influence. I had a post on that on Steelers Depot. I mean, 100% undeniable the influence that Canada has had. Although, as I said, credit to Randy Feetner for not carrying an ego and being able to accept new ideas that aren't his own and make them work and for the benefit of the offense. So, kudos to Randy Feetner for implementing that, not having an ego and saying, no, we're not going to run that stuff because it's not my stuff. Some coaches will do that, not Randy Feetner.
19 plays, pre-snap, motion at the sack of the football, and 9 of them were successful.
Yeah, good stuff there. Wes Hitchcock says, Dave, Alex, how the heck are you? We're doing well, Wes. Thanks for being here. I tuned in late, as Wes goes on to say. The way it seems to me, Keith Butler has been playing Minka way back deep in the defense. Is this accurate? If so, is it the primary contributing factor of his lack of production? I don't think he's been playing back. He was playing back more last year than he has been this year. They're really trying to spin him down some more. So I don't have a percentage on that, but I don't really see that as the fundamental issue, to be honest with you, Wes.
I think Wes is looking for some confirmation bias here.
Well, I mean, to an extent, it was true at the back half of last year, but I don't think it's necessarily applying itself to this year because they recognize that fact and they are moving him around. They're just big plays just aren't happening.
Right, he just got to do a better job of reading stuff and getting position. Look, I would like to start maybe at getting him to tackle better.
Right.
That might be. I almost wonder if he's trying too hard not to give up the big play sometimes as well too.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's his primary responsibility, of course, is as the free safety when he's back there. So, I mean, the tackling, I know he had the
Did
one
did
miss.
you did you see when they ran? And they almost connected on it. And I put a gif of that early where they tried to run, a play similar to what the Giants did on that touchdown.
Oh, did they? When was that? I don't know if I saw that.
It was early. It's in. Look at my Twitter feed there, and I think you might be able to.
Okay.
It'll stick out to you. They ran it. That was that deep kind of over going from left to right again.
Mm-hmm.
And
And Minka
and
came down to cut the crosser.
Right, he came down to cut, and Joe had followed the crosser
Ooh,
with him that time.
ooh.
And Joe didn't sink.
Mm,
It looked. I guess they call. I guess they were playing man instead of. I think they were playing cover one man on that instead of cover three on that.
okay. Yeah, could be for
And
sure.
and I think Minka just at that point. Then I'm not sure if they have a zombie call on that or not. Because Minka started. Minka came across. Minka didn't sink. I mean, Hayden didn't didn't try to get depth
Right,
there.
replace. Yeah.
He followed the crosser on over there, and then Minka came down, and then that left. I mean, Nelson was beat on the play, and if the ball's on target there, that's an easy completion.
Mm. Do you know when
That
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 play?
was the. It was. I'll have to find it, Alex.
Okay, because I'm a little hesitant to do this because I once got copyright striked for it, which is kind of weird. But I could pull up the coach's tape and just hope that I don't get a copyright strike, and we could look at that play if you knew when approximately it was.
I want to
Do you
say
know the result of the play? Because they didn't
it,
throw
it,
to the
it, it
post.
was incomplete deep. I think it was the high tower.
Was that the one? No, because okay. Let me look it up here. Let's try to find this here for you guys. We'll do maybe one play. Won't make the YouTube gods unhappy. Um,
I think it was the second deep pass Wentz had of the game.
okay. This one, there'll be a bit of a delay, I think, from the time you guys see it on what's my screen right now. But this is 8:31, and I think the first quarter. Uh,
I'm gonna send you a link to it in Twitter too, so you can pull it up that way.
okay. Yeah, give us a second here. I think this is the right one. Did you sing it on the YouTube stream right now? Nope,
No,
this is
that's
not
not
it.
it.
This is not it. Okay. Later in
Pull
the
pull
game.
up pull up the one in your direct message.
Yeah, well, they'll see the screen, and I'm trying to like not
Oh.
have all my Twitter DMs shown because I need a dual.
It was
Uh, I got it.
that's not it. Okay, you
Yeah,
got it.
yeah. It'll come up here in a second. And sorry, yeah, I just want to look at this play since I guess we have a moment. Then we'll kind of finish out the questions, but hopefully it's coming up on screen now. Should be, I think.
There it
Yeah, you
is.
can see Minka definitely cut that, and yeah, that could have been a big play to Hightower, the speedster rookie out of Boise State.
You got to cut. You calling that cover one, man?
Mm, it feels like there's miscommunication. I don't know why Minka would come down on that. I feel like maybe they had a coverage check since that they got burned on that by the Giants, and maybe they were calling off the switch on this play, and
See,
Minka's
see,
supposed to
Minka
stay
right in the
deep.
middle of the field.
Yeah.
He got caught in no man's land there.
Yeah, I did notice there was a play earlier in the game on a 3rd and 9 where Minka was the deep safety, but he wasn't getting a lot of depth. So I wonder if they're just trying to change his depth and say play a little shallower to try to make some plays. But I don't know. It's hard to tell. That's an interesting play though for sure.
I mean, if that throws on the money, that's
No,
that
it's
he's just running away. I mean, it's hard for. I mean, that's a tough chore for Nelson.
absolutely. So I wonder if there's miscommunication on that play in terms of what the check was going to be on that over route or not. So hard to say.
Or if he just guessed and he guessed wrong.
Right, maybe possible. Now, lyric balling. Do you think Juju should be re-signed slash paid? I think we would love to see Dave and I would love to see Juju come back, but it's all about the money, the ability to make that work financially, and that is a much bigger question than it is the worth and worthiness of Juju. Hung low makes an interesting point. Don't say that sentence too often. Scoring is at all-time highs around the league. Fans want to ask what's wrong with Pittsburgh, but we're still ranking among the best defenses in the league. Top 10 in yards, sacks, and points against. I think that's a good point. There'll be a big test coming up with the slate against Cleveland, Tennessee, and Baltimore. We'll see some of the better offenses that this team has faced this season that may provide a more accurate gauge to where this defense is at. But context that you're providing is accurate and I think important. So good stuff there. Let's see. Lyric Balling says, "What do you think about the rumor that Mike Tomlin was controlling the defense last year, which is why it seemed better than currently? Well, he was controlling it last year. I don't know why he wouldn't be controlling it this year. I think he's had a growing influence, but to my knowledge, Keith Butler still calls the plays." K Jackson, Pittsburgh, with the team is going into the meat of their schedule. Do you see the team going on a successful second and third quarter run to the playoffs? It'll be a big test, as I just mentioned. You got the Browns, you got Tennessee, you have Baltimore, Dallas, the latter three all on the road. So that'll be a big stretch for sure. Evan Ailes, should we get Connor less snaps and more to McFarland and Snell to develop them after a poor performance against the Eagles? Are you saying Connor had a poor performance against the Eagles? I don't know if I would characterize that. I know the numbers weren't pretty, but that defense line is pretty stout, and there wasn't a whole lot of running room for James Conner, to be honest with you.
I wonder what the I haven't gotten to the successful run rates yet
I
on
imagine it
Connor yet.
wasn't very good, but I mean, Snell averaged what 2.5 yards a carry, and McFarland had a couple carries for not much. So I mean, no one really had a lot of success running the football, and Connor had the big run of the day for 25 yards.
Right.
Jay Stewart, why aren't we giving the ball to Benny Snell that much? Connor's the guy. Connor's the feature back, and until he's not available to be the feature back, then Snell and McFarland, the other guys, are going to be just fighting for scraps. Kevin D, do you think we would keep Bud or Juju? Bud is gone. Good is gone. Juju still going to be tough to bring him back, but if they are going to keep one, it'll be Juju, not Dupree. John Glink just popped in. Our defense last year played a lot more man than we appear to be playing so far this year. Why the change? I'd have to look at the numbers. I imagine that's true. My gut feeling is that's true, John, but I don't know the data behind it. They are facing more mobile quarterbacks with Wentz and Watson, and Drew Lock was a mobile guy before getting hurt. So generally, you play more zone against quarterbacks who can beat you with their legs. So that's something that's probably worth at least mentioning, John.
What did Connor have? 15 carries. That's right, right?
Yeah, for like 44 yards, I think.
I'm counting them up now. One, two, three, four, five successful runs.
Yeah, so about a 33% success rate.
Right, but what I mean, I don't think they ran good as a whole.
No.
Success rate wise.
Yeah, did not do that. Angel Romero, how's Deontay Johnson? We'll find out more from Tomlin tomorrow, but I think Deontay's going to be able to play against the Browns on Sunday. Brian says, "Hey guys, just stopping in for a moment. Thanks for all the coverage this weekend. Always a highlight of my week. Thank you so much, Brian. Glad you're here with us." Um, let's see. Any more questions?
Looks like 13 successful runs yesterday out of how many?
You tell me. 20
Thir-
something.
13. I'll look.
Probably about under 50% success rate. I mean, obviously, when you add some of the receivers in there, then that probably helps with the
Let's
success
see.
rate.
They had 22, 24, and 8. What 31 runs and 2 were kneel downs. Right. So 29. And what did I tell you?
13.
All right. So a little less than 50%, obviously.
Yeah,
Right.
some 40 something percent.
Yeah.
Not,
Got to
not.
be higher. Got to be closer to 50.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's see. Don't we any other questions here? Ian Suter, is Minka not making big plays because they're not throwing his way, or is he slacking? I don't think necessarily either of those assessments are correct. I mean, he is getting some opportunities, and I don't think he's slacking. I just think he has not been playing his best, and they haven't had any major opportunities, and there's just an ebb and flow to it sometimes as well. Where if they're not throwing it deep, or not throwing it to the right spot, then that can impact things. A lot of balls on the outside. A lot of the big plays that are being made outside the numbers, and that's an area where obviously a safety's not going to always be able to patrol. Any more questions? Mark White, starting guards did not look good. Corner struggling as well. Your thoughts? I thought Dotson played really well in relief. Fowler, I'll have to go back and check the tape on. It wasn't his best. I don't think it was a terrible performance. And so, corners, as we mentioned, Mark, you want to see those corners make more plays on the football. But Fulgham played a heck of a game. And last question here, I think, for the chat. Kendall Douglas, what's your score prediction for the Browns game? I'll let you know Friday. Kendall, I haven't even really thought about the Browns game a whole lot in terms of who I think is going to win this one. I want to watch the Browns and get a feel for their team a little bit later in the week. But should be a good game, though. I mean, this will not be a cakewalk by any means.
Yeah, we got to tease it a little bit. You can't put it. You can't ask us now. You got to give us something to tease on the podcast and all. And plus, we got to get into the tape and all. Like it should be a good game.
Yeah, I
Look,
think so.
look. I mean, they've the Browns have never won at Heinz Field since Tomlin took over in 2007, and since Heinz Field was built. and the Steelers started playing there, the Browns have only won there once.
Wow. I think the stat was Baker Mayfield is now officially the most winningest quarterback in the state of Ohio, passing Ben. I think that just happened Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of tells you the dominance. But it's a new season. The Browns are a lot better, obviously, than past Browns teams, and so take nothing for granted. Last question here from the last style bender: do you think David DeCastro will come back next week, or Dotson will start? We don't know. We'll find more about that tomorrow. The one, I guess, maybe semi-promising thing was DeCastro came out at the end of the drive and wasn't visibly hurt on any one particular play, so at least gutted out a drive. Maybe that means something positive. Maybe not, but we'll find out tomorrow. If the Castro cannot go, then yes, Kevin Dawson will start at right guard.
Yeah, it's so hard to go off of I mean, I didn't see anything on tape,
Hmm.
so we're at the mercy of whatever Mike Tomlin tells us on Tuesday.
Yeah, hopefully at least they will leave the light on for him and give him a chance to play against the Browns on Sunday. So that's going to wrap up our live stream for this Monday. As always, Dave and I will be back in a week on the 19th to discuss what happens in a post Browns game. Hopefully the Steelers are 5-0. Dave, thank you so much for being here.
Always. Thank you everybody for joining us tonight. Peace and love to everybody.
Yep.
Be safe.
Thank you guys so much for being here in the chat. Look for some more videos later this week on the Steelers team. Appreciate your time, and we will talk to you soon.